As reported on September the 12th, Russia experienced one of the largest UAV attacks. The Russian Defense Ministry reported 221 shot-down drones in more than a dozen regions. But OSINT and video from Primorsk and Smolensk region recorded fires on oil infrastructure. Focus found out how these attacks are changing the Russian fuel market and what the entry of Ukrainian drones into Siberian facilities will give. The Russian side claims that the air defense is effective, but there are nuances. Bryansk region governor Alexander Bogomaz claims that there are no casualties or damage in Smolensk region, where 42 drones were destroyed. Governor Vasily Anokhin also claims that there is no damage. However, OSINT analysts at CyberBoroshno published a video of a fire at the Kardymovo oil depot near Smolensk, which belongs to Lukoil, which contradicts official statements. In the Leningrad region, Governor Alexander Drozdenko confirmed a fire in the port of Primorsk on a vessel and a pump station. Anton Zemlyanoi, a senior analyst at the Ukrainian Center for Security and Cooperation, notes that Ukrainian attacks on the Russian oil refining industry have caused a serious crisis in the Russian fuel sector. Gasoline shortages have affected about 20 regions, which is a clear indicator of the effectiveness of the operations. Over the past 30 days, drone strikes have hit about 14 refineries, resulting in a loss of 17% of oil refining capacity, or 1.1 million barrels per day. These losses affect both the economy and military logistics of Russia. The oil industry is the basis of export revenues and domestic consumption. The loss of 17% of refining capacity has caused a gasoline shortage in 20 regions, which threatens to increase prices and social discontent. The reduction in oil product exports weakens Russia's position in world markets, which is exacerbated by sanctions. A blow to the oil and gas sector is, first and foremost, a blow to the Russian economy. This concerns both oil and gas exports and domestic fuel consumption. The analysts tells Focus. Although the fuel shortage in the Russian army is not yet critical, according to Zemlyanoi, Ukrainian drone strikes are creating difficulties for Russian aggressors. Occupation troops in southern Ukraine are experiencing supply delays due to disrupted logistics and reduced production. This slows down the maneuverability of troops and the provision of equipment. However, the Kremlin is sacrificing civilian needs to provide the army and the military-industrial complex with diesel and aviation fuel. This allows for the maintenance of military operations but increases the deficit on the domestic market, which can cause social tension. However, these blows are not enough, because Russia, according to the analyst, still retains significant potential in the oil and gas industry. In addition, Russia is still able to produce sufficient amounts of fuel, since some of the most powerful refineries located in Siberia have not been damaged yet, and their combined capacity is tens of millions of tons. Therefore, we must continue to develop long-range capabilities and strike at the oil sector so that the country gas station finally runs out of fuel, the expert adds. To have maximum influence, Ukraine needs to develop long-range weapons to strike Siberian refineries. This could cause a fuel shortage for the Russian military, changing the dynamics at the front. The attacks also have a psychological effect, demonstrating Russia's vulnerability. Combined with sanctions and diplomatic efforts, this could weaken Russia's military capabilities. Recall that Ukrainian drones in August 2025 reduced Russian oil refining by 21%, causing significant losses to the Kremlin. People in Crimea who support Ukraine are sending messages hoping that the Flamingo missiles will soon destroy the Kerch Bridge. Rifat Chubarov, head of the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people, shared the information on Espresso TV. Crimea has long been turned by the Russian occupiers into a stronghold from which they constantly attack mainland Ukraine. Today, there are enough Russian military bases in Crimea, and all of them are targets for the Ukrainian armed forces. In particular, there are 250 Russian military facilities on the territory of the occupied Crimea, Chubarov said. According to him, the strike by the Ukrainian armed forces on a Russian border post in the village of Voloshyne near Armyansk did not go unnoticed in Crimea itself. Recently, Crimeans indeed witnessed Ukrainian Flamingo missiles striking Russian military facilities located in the steppe area of Crimea, specifically the village of Voloshyne near Armyansk. These strikes did not go unnoticed, as there is a lot of information suggesting this was a test of the new Flamingo missile. I can confirm that we have already received several indirect reports from Crimeans hoping that the Flamingo missiles will soon be fired at the Kerch Bridge. In other words, some people in Crimea who remain loyal to Ukraine have experienced a boost of expectation from the Ukrainian armed forces, he said. Recently, Serhiy Bratchuk, the spokesperson of the Ukrainian Volunteer Army, stated that Ukraine's defense forces continue to strike Russian military targets in Crimea, wearing down Russia's air defense. The spokesperson of the Ukrainian Volunteer Army did not specify which long-range Ukrainian weapons are currently being routed for strikes in temporarily occupied Crimea. According to him, the phase of wearing down the enemy's air defense on the peninsula has been ongoing for quite some time. The Ukrainian defense forces are actively working against Russian military targets in Crimea. This activity also aims to exhaust the enemy's air defense. This phase has been going on for quite a while. Through these actions, the Ukrainian armed forces units are paving the way for our other firepower assets. I will not speak now about the Flamingo and Neptune missiles, but the path is being laid. Therefore, I believe that soon, certainly not tomorrow or the day after, but in time, Ukrainian aircraft may appear in the skies over Crimea, which will strike ground targets, he emphasized.